Welcome back. TGIF, right? We survived Irma. The power is coming back on. For the last week, the attention has been on what brings us together as Floridians and Americans, not what pulls us apart. We helped each other prepare for Irma, and we came to each other's aid when the winds faded and it was time to pick up the pieces. And now back to reality. After looking at presidential and helping feed lunch to victims of Irma in Naples, President Trump reignited the uproar over his comments about the violence in Charlottesville, and then he incurred the wrath of many in his own party by working on a deal with Democrats on DACA. Joining us for more is Kevin Griffith, the chair of the Sarasota County, vice chair of the Sarasota County Democratic Party, Jack Brill, the vice chair of the Sarasota Republican Party, and Wendy March, the political reporter for the Tampa Bay Times. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Let's start this way. Both with President Trump and Governor Scott, in terms of how they did this week, you could start with the governor, who was just about everywhere in the state, on TV all the time. Kevin, let me put it to you. I know you're not a fan of the governor, but were you impressed by his performance?
Well, I thought the performance of everyone was uplifting, and we were a community that came together at a time when we all needed to come together. And I thought not only Governor Scott, but other government officials, including the Democratic politicians here in town at the city level, and people who weren't politicians but were what we call technocrats, bureaucrats, people who work in emergency management. They all did really well, and we still have work to do, but we should all be really happy that we came together.
Wendy, I did hear or read about some criticism of the governor in terms of the release of information at the emergency management headquarters in Tallahassee. You read those articles too.
Oh, sure. What's been going on is they've been keeping private the briefings of state officials by agency heads, by emergency experts. Those have been public in the past. I have seen and a couple of reporters, Miami Herald, Tallahassee Democrat, have written stories about this, about the fact that they're kept private, just trying to figure out why, and I've seen no response from the state as to why that's being done.
Okay. Jack, let me get to the president. He came in to Naples yesterday, and you did see here what you did not see in Houston after Hurricane Harvey, and that is the president actually feeding lunch to victims of Hurricane of Irma. Those are the images, and those are the words I know people like you want to see this president doing.
Absolutely. No, I think the visit, and I think it's very shrewd like he did in Texas. He's not going into the hardest hit areas, so interfering with the the rescue and the cleanup efforts.
But let me interrupt. In Texas, he was talking about crowd sizes, and you did not see him with anybody really affected by the. That was the criticism there. Yeah. They seem to have corrected that here.
No, the visit was fine. I got to say, tying in what Governor Scott, putting out the, declaring the emergencies, getting the president signed off on the pre-event emergency funding, so it freed up stuff. And I mean, everybody seemed to be very much in step in doing the right thing for the citizens of Florida, which we needed very much.
Okay, we are just getting warmed up with our conversation. We'll have much more on Irma and the week in politics right after we check First Alert Weather. Stay with us. From Irma to Charlottesville again to DACA, we're talking about the week in politics, and joining us for more is Kevin Griffith, the vice chair of the Sarasota County Democratic Party, Jack Brill, the vice chair of the Sarasota Republican Party, and Wendy March, the political reporter for the Tampa Bay Times. So after the president left Florida to really positive reviews, he gets back on Air Force One and then revisits his controversial comments about Charlottesville, once again saying that everybody is saying Trump had it right, that in fact there were bad people on both sides. And Wendy, in terms of following politics and gaining momentum and trying to turn things around, you don't think that was really the way to do it?
Well, the president seems to have a problem with impulse control. He can't leave well enough alone, or as in the case of his Charlottesville comments, he can't leave bad enough alone. He gets set up and prepped with a good message, a good event like the Florida visit, a message that'll appeal, and then he turns around and trashes it with off-the-cuff remarks. And that's what happened here. He came down, he looked good working with the hurricane victims, then he trashes his own message. He's done this several times before.
Jack, what do you make of this? Because I know that you are rooting for this president and this administration to find its gear and get on track. There was a lot of hope that with his new chief of staff, General Kelly, he has basically done a good job in doing a better job in controlling the information that gets to the president. But you can't control what the president says, and those comments, that's not something that the media is making up. That's something that the president went to almost unassisted.
Well, he is his own man, and he's going to say what he wants to say. And if he feels that his statements were not quite where, what he wanted them to be, and then he's going to say them. Then he's the president, and I don't care if the chief of staff or anybody else is not going to, be able to. Nobody else will be able to tell him not to do that. And we've learned that with President Trump.
Kevin, what impact does that have on local politics here on the Suncoast, if any?
Well, on the local front, it may hopefully have impacts at the ballot box, but I just want to shift a little bit back to that in the sense that the larger issue is for at least a generation, our president, the United States president, has had the moral authority, not just in the United States, but internationally. And what Trump has managed to do is whittle away at that moral authority, and it's sad, and it's affecting our country and its ability to do good things, not only in the United States, but around the world.
Jack, when you hear Democrats like Kevin say that, what do you think?
Well, I'm hoping that President Trump will continue to follow the will of the citizens of the country. He'll, see them, continue and stay on message, be able to offer, what the things that we need. So I agree. We are the moral authority for the world. We've got to have our leaders acting like leaders, and I hope, hoping that will continue to happen.
I mean, are you saying that President Trump wasn't acting as our moral leader when he revisited this issue yesterday?
Oh, I wasn't saying that. I just, we as I mentioned earlier, we all know he wants to have the final word on something, and he's going to have it. And I thought Senator Scott's statement earlier that you had in the earlier piece was very well spoken and well said. He's not going to have you can talk to him, but he's not going to have an epiphany over it.
All right, I'm interested in what you all think about the other big story that came out this week in terms of the president meeting with Senator Schumer and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. And did they come up with an agreement in terms of DACA? Because Schumer and Pelosi seemed to say so, the president seemed to say so, and then Paul Ryan, basically raised his finger and said, it's news to us.
Well, nobody really knows. And even Donald Trump himself contradicted himself, sort of, depending on how you read his tweets, as to whether he did make this deal or not. The deal allegedly was a clean DACA bill that doesn't include the wall. So when the word of that got out, Republicans were outraged. Trump started to deny it. But if he either made a deal or he didn't. There either is one or there isn't, and that has yet to be decided. The question is, it's just another example of the confusion over message from this White House.
And, part of that, when you're, successful negotiations on all sides, sometimes throwing out, mixed messages keeps everybody thinking, keeps everybody and guessing a little bit about their position, and maybe Senator Schumer and Congresswoman Pelosi don't have the deal they think they do, and when he sends a different tweet out that it changes that, well, then they think, well, maybe we need to give a little bit back. And then, Congressman Speaker Ryan, who thinks, wait a minute, we're still discussing, maybe they have a little bit more. So that's sort of part of the art of the deal.
Kevin?
Well, when you're the president of the United States, that sleight of hand, I don't think that's an appropriate tactic, because you should be setting the goal for our country. And fact is, it seems like, at least a little bit on this issue, President Trump does get it. I mean, you heard the quote earlier played that said that these DACA individuals who came here, 800,000 of them, came here by no fault of their own. Their parents brought them, and some path needs to be created for them.
What is the end game here? Because it seems to me if the president makes this deal with the Democrats and it somehow gets enacted into law, there are a lot of people in the president's base who are not going to be happy with it. And that would be trouble for the president. And if the deal is not made, that is something that the Democrats can run on.
Well, a lot of people, a lot of the big names in the president's base are very unhappy with it, and they're starting to reject the notion that Josh has talked about, that Trump is playing a sort of a chess game, 4D chess. But after the confusion over DACA, Lou Dobbs, Ann Coulter, trashed him, Laura Ingraham, these have been people that are in his corner. Hannity stayed with him. Hannity stayed with him, but a lot of people are saying Dobbs's comment was, Coulter's comment was that at this point, who doesn't want Trump impeached?
Jack.
I think I heard someone comment that her head exploded yesterday over some of these comments, so I'll leave it at that. You know, just.
I mean, it does. You know, there's another story that came through, according to Politico, that many in the GOP feel betrayed by Trump. Quote, that the DACA situation left Republicans grappling with a frightening new potential reality that Trump will cut controversial deals with Democrats and leave them to pick up the pieces.
Hopefully, when this is all, you know, everyone has to negotiate with both sides of the party. Now, yes, we have the House, we have the Senate, and we have the administration. You think it'd be easy. Obviously, it's not because of the splits in the House and getting the Senate, you know. So the best strategy at this point, since you can't get everybody together in order to get the tax reform and who knows, you know, with health care and some of the other things that have got to happen, we've got to, you know, you're going to have to include everybody and, you know, good, better, and different.
All right, we have to take a quick break, and we'll be back with final thoughts when we return. Our guest joining us right now for final thoughts, and Kevin, I always get back to this, in terms of when or if will we see any impact in terms of potential local races because of what's going on in Washington in terms of whether the president is popular or not?
Alan, the Sarasota County Democratic Party is having a recruiting fest that Jimbo Fisher or Jim McIlvain would be shouting from the hilltops about.
Yeah, I think they're Republicans, though.
We just announced, or there was an announcement today that Margaret Good is running in District 72, which is the special election which will occur in February. That's a huge recruiting coup for the Democrats here. She's a local attorney. She's going to do great, as well as some big names that are interested in the Vern Buchanan seat and other local races. We are really, really happy.
You worried?
No, not one bit. Margaret Good is a very nice lady. She has no shot to beating James Buchanan. And they, you know, you keep throwing out that Vern, you know, is going to, the National Democratic Party is going to put money into it. Let them put money into it. It's, you know, Vern's sitting on $2 million right now, you know? I mean, he's done a lot of things to help the seniors and the citizens of his district. And I just, it's great to get into it. That's why we have campaigns.
But you know what? The people of our community want change, and they want new leaders, and they're going to get them. And the Democrats are going to offer an alternative.
Well, Wendy, let me ask you two questions, because Democrats around the entire state of Florida have been looking at some of these special elections that are popping up and hoping that they can make inroads there.
Well, there hasn't been a telling special in Florida yet, but Democrats nationally, at the national level, they're bragging about having won special legislative elections in Trump-won districts in several states, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, Mississippi. In Florida, the first strong evidence that we're going to see could come on later this month, September 26th, I think it is, special state Senate election in a swing district down in South Florida. And if the Democrat wins that one, if it looks good, then you might see some results in terms of Democratic candidates being encouraged to come out of the woodwork.
All right, we have to leave it there. But before we go, we want to share with you some thoughts about last night's show. Hurricane Irma may be gone, but we will be recovering from the damages for months. Billions of dollars of damage was done in the state of Florida alone. Thousands of homes are still left without power on the Suncoast. Some businesses and schools are still closed. The media prepared the public for the worst. Some took it seriously, others did not. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What can we do better next time to prepare for a natural disaster in the future? Faye says, more shelters, only 9 for the entire Sarasota County is sad. Also, FPL should be on top of overgrown trees. This was less than a Category 1 storm. Resources should be used in places that got hit, not trimming trees because FPL failed routine maintenance. Mark adds, how about getting the power company to phase in running all those power lines underground? They always complain that it would cost too high, but how much more is it costing them to fix them after every storm and every inconvenience of thousands of customers? And then there's Carol, who says the media can stop inciting mass anxiety attack. Carol, really? Were you sleeping like the last 10 days? Did you not grasp what just happened? Many of us understand it could have been much worse. It was for our neighbors in Fort Myers and Naples and the Keys. If you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions. They're on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. We want to thank our guests for being here tonight. Kevin Griffith is the Vice Chair of the Sarasota County Democratic Party. Jack Brill is the Vice Chair of the Sarasota Republican Party. And Wendy March is a political columnist for the Tampa Bay Times.